Well, I don't know what else to say. The Memphis Grizzlies did it again. No Ja Morant, no Jaren Jackson Jr., no Santi Aldama, no whoever. It doesn't matter. The Memphis Grizzlies 3-0 road trip going to Dallas, 120 to 103 win against the Dallas Mavericks. We got to talk about what happened during this game and much more coming up right here on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Everyone, what's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. I am your host today, Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal here in Memphis, Tennessee. This is my first solo show with you guys this year. Joe Monet's getting a well-deserved day off. Again, it was a late game, so I'm here with you solo for this game. But new year, new mic for me. I know some people been telling me, Michael, get a new microphone. Well, guess what? How do I sound now? Let me know how I sound now. But new year, new mic, same me though. So appreciate you guys for always tuning in with us on Locked On Grizzlies because we got a lot to talk about from today's game. But before we get to yesterday's game, this episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Listen, make every moment more right now. New customers get $150 in bonus bets with any $5 money line bet. It's simple. You do a $5 money line bet and you win. You get $150 in bonus bets. Visit FanDuel.com/locked on to get started. Thank you guys again for tuning in with us on today on Locked On Grizzlies. Just me here with you as we recap the Grizzlies 120 to 103 win against the Dallas Mavericks. A lot of things to take away for you in today's show. We're going to talk about a lot. We're going to talk about how the Grizzlies did it. We got to talk about Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart got injured in the third quarter of this game, left the game. We have some updates and some intel on what's next for him in his next steps from here. And then we'll talk about the keys to kind of why the Grizzlies went 3-0 on this road trip. If you remember before this road trip, I was saying that it would be great if this team won two. And when I say it'd be great if they won two, 1 and 2 was kind of sort of maybe the expectation, but it would be great if they won two. And they went on and won all three. And not only did they win all three, they came back from 12 down against the Suns. They dominated the Dallas Mavericks, and they had probably their best basketball game of the season against the Lakers from a shooting, defense, everything all around standpoint. They did it all against the Los Angeles Lakers. So a lot of takeaways in this game over this road trip for the Grizzlies. But how did they do it against the Dallas Mavericks? As I said at the top, no Ja Morant, who was you watched yesterday's show. You've learned that with us that he's out for the remainder of the season. Season ended labral tear. I also have a story out in Commercial Appeal. Many of you can go check that out. Me and Joe may talk about it a little bit on tomorrow's episode. But if you can also just go check it out in Commercial Appeal, where I talked to a doctor who specializes particularly with shoulder operations, and he gave some very good intel on the process going forward for Ja Morant. The timeline and everything in between. So go check it out at commercialappeal.com. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more on tomorrow's show as well. But no Ja Morant, no Jaren Jackson Jr. For knee contusion, he missed this game. I expect it to just be a one-game absence for him, but knee contusion, missed the game, and no Santi Aldama. So you didn't have both of your power forwards. So basically, the front court was Xavier Tillman and Bismack Biyombo. You needed one of them. You had to have one of them play well, I felt like. And boy, it was Xavier Tillman Sr. I mean, let's start there. No Jaren, no Santi. You needed someone to step up in the front court. And Xavier Tillman Sr. had his best game of the season. Let's rewind a little bit. Let's rewind. I was talking about Bismack Biyombo and Xavier Tillman on the show about a week ago. And I think I was basically saying that I think the team should possibly lean more towards starting Xavier Tillman. Well, that didn't happen. He's still coming off the bench. But the point that I was making was the fact that if you look at Xavier Tillman Sr.'s career numbers and the numbers that he's putting up this season, there are some numbers this season that are so far off from his career numbers that you have to think, oh, it's still early in the season. You remember he missed time with injury early in the year. Like, he's going to get back to the mean in some ways. Whereas with Bismack Biyombo, what you've been seeing is pretty much what he is. That's Bismack Biyombo pretty much throughout his career. That's why he's came off the bench for most of his career, because he's going to give that energy. He's going to block some shots, and he's good for that role. But the Grizzlies need a starting center. And that's really not Bismack Biyombo's game, because you put him in that starting role, and now he's playing, extended minutes, and that leads to his weaknesses kind of being magnified. And that's where, people talk about, his offensive shortcomings, in which, that's never been the strength of Bismack Biyombo's game. But nevertheless, with Xavier Tillman, in particular, his 2-point field goal percentage, I think last season he was around 63%. At the time when I was talking about it about a week or so ago, he was down to about 44% in 2-point field goal percentage. And I said, this number's going to go up some. And it is starting to do so. A terrific game for him, against the Mavs. We're talking 14 points off the bench, 11 rebounds, 6 of 9 shooting, only 0 of 1 from three-point range, only took 1 3-point, 2 blocks as well. Terrific isolation defense. One thing that Luka and Kyrie are going to try to do when they play against you, because a lot of teams are going to throw terrific guard defenders on those, they're going to manipulate mismatches. And sometimes those best mismatches are the bigs. And a lot of bigs don't have the footwork, the lateral agility to be able to stand on an island, with those type of players. But Xavier Tillman Sr. can. He can. And he did it time and time after again. I think even at one point, Kyrie got a foul call. But that was one of the most impressive stretches to me, because Kyrie pulled all the moves out of the bag. He's going left to right, hezzy, crossover, trying to break Xavier Tillman down. And everywhere he goes, Xavier Tillman is on his back pocket like a wallet. And he just stays with him. And he gets the foul call. But he also, deflected the ball, got the block. And he talked a little trash after the play to the Mavs bench and whatnot. And I'm looking, I'm like, you don't see Xavier Tillman talking trash too much. So look at that fire from him. But that's one player who stood out to me. And then you go down to the rest of the bench, right? You go down all the way down to John Conchar. You have 4 guys pretty much play off the bench. John Conchar was the only one of those guys who didn't score in double figures, but he had 4 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists. The other guys, 14 points from Zaire Williams. So he just continues to stack good performance on top of good performance. Last 4 games, 18 points, 15 points, 9 points, now 14 for Zaire Williams. And then David Roddy. He likes playing against the Mavs or something. He entered this game averaging over 11.7 points per game against the Mavs. It's his highest against any opponent. Had 11 points in the first half. Didn't really score in the second half, but those 11 points in the first half were big from David Roddy, because, quite frankly, it helped put the Grizzlies out in front, helped them build the lead that they built, as they built a double-digit lead pretty much in the first half, and they didn't let their foot off the gas. The Mavs kept coming. Kyrie Irving, 33 points. Luka Doncic finished with 31. Both guys were getting to the free throw line. They combined for 25 free throw attempts, but the Grizzlies just had an answer. And the biggest answers came from Marcus Smart, Desmond Bane, Luke Kennard in the starting lineup. Desmond Bane finished with 32 points to lead the Grizzlies. He also had 9 boards, 4 assists. Marcus Smart, 23 points in 21 minutes before he left the game in the third quarter, made 4 triples, by the way. But how about the rest of the Grizzlies starting lineup? Every single Grizzlies starter except Marcus Smart, who left in the third quarter. So every Grizzlies starter who pretty much finished the game had 4 or more assists. Luke Kennard, 4 assists. Vince Williams, 6 assists. Bismack Biyombo, 4 assists. Desmond Bane, 4 assists. This is what you call a collective team effort that we saw. And that's why it was hard for the Mavs to really get back into the game, because you would think, okay, yeah, Desmond Bane is the guy, right? Desmond Bane is the guy you got to stop. But the Grizzlies were moving the basketball. The ball didn't stick into Desmond Bane's hands. Everyone was getting involved. Everyone was touching the basketball. And then defensively, that's gonna be their calling card for the rest of the season. Because guess what? Even though Ja Morant is not gonna be here, you're still gonna have Marcus Smart, who again, defensive player of the year. You're gonna have Jaren Jackson Jr., reigning defensive player of the year. You're gonna have Vince Williams, who, from the player I'm looking at, is very capable of making an all defensive team one day. Like he has it. He is very good defensively. Desmond Bain is solid. Bismack Biyombo and Xavier Tillman, you won't find too many better center defensive combinations than those two guys. They are very good for their particular roles as defenders. They're both very versatile. Bismack Biyombo gives you more of the shot blocking. Xavier Tillman can go out and switch on the perimeter. He can, he has the better hands probably in terms of creating the steals and things like that. Two really high quality defenders. So basically, you're talking about Desmond Bain being your worst defender in the lineup. You'll take that because the Grizzlies trust Desmond Bain defensively. So that's how the Grizzlies got it done. Again, they got a lot of things going for them right now. And the next thing we need to figure out is Marcus Smart. And is he okay? Marcus Smart left the game in the third quarter. We got a little bit of information after that game on what's next for him. We're going to talk about that coming up after the break. But before we get to that, we got to talk about our sponsor over there at FanDuel, where you make every moment more. Listen, the NFL regular season is over, but guess what? There's still time to get on the action with FanDuel because it's America's number one sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. Again, $150 in bonus bets when you place a $5 bet. The app is so easy to use and it's simple. You can bet in so many different ways. Because you don't have to just make the money line bet. You got live same game parlays. You can find bets in the new Explore tab. You can make a parlay in the Parlay Hub, which is the best way to find the popular parlays. And there's more. All you got to do is visit fanduel.com/locked on to make your first bet because it's simple. I mean, and it's not even just, it's not even just same game parlays. It's not even just, you could do same game parlay pluses where you do a same game parlay from one game and you can combine it with a different game. All you got to do is visit fanduel.com/locked on and make your first bet a layup. FanDuel is the official partner of the NFL. Coming up next on Locked On Grizzlies, we got to talk about Marcus Smart and the latest there. So stay tuned for that. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I am Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Want to thank you guys for tuning in with us on Locked On Grizzlies on today. And make sure you continue to tune in with us throughout this week. Me and Joe Monex are going to be together for the next couple days. I know we haven't been together a lot so far in the new year because of the schedule and the timing of everything. I've been on the road a lot. The Grizzlies have had a lot of back-to-backs and things like that. But we're going to make it work now. So next 2 days, make sure you tuned in as me and Joe Monex are joined back in together. But let's get back into it with this Marcus Smart injury news. After the game, Marcus Smart gave a little bit more clarity on what happened. So what we saw, if you were watching the game, was Marcus Smart shot a three-pointer, made the three-pointer, does his celebration, and as he looks down at his fingers, he says, "My finger is dislocated." As the Grizzlies, a timeout was taken by the Mavs. And as he's walking towards the Grizzlies bench, he says, "My finger is dislocated." Taylor Jenkins alerts the medical staff. They all come up to him. They try to pop it back in place or whatever the case may be, put a towel around his hand or whatever. And at that moment, Marcus Smart goes to the locker room. Grizzlies rule him out due to a right finger injury. Then he comes back to the bench with his right hand being iced, getting his hand iced. Later, they put a splint on that right hand. And that's it for today. Well, so after the game, Marcus Smart basically said that, it's not broken. They kind of want to be safe, better safe than sorry here. They're going to take they're going to do a further evaluation, MRI, all those good things. And we'll learn more at that point on what's going to happen with Marcus Smart. Again, the Grizzlies practice They will practice in the next couple days. So the good news there is when they practice, I'll be there, for example, and we'll have more intel on if Marcus practices, how he looks in practice, because this is his shooting hand, and I think that's why it's a little bit more impactful. A lot of you may remember. I think it was last week when we were talking about the left hand injury that Marcus Smart was dealing with in terms of on the palm of his hand from the December 26th game against the Pelicans when some of his skin kind of left his hand after he had one of those situations where he dived on the floor. So Marcus Smart is racking up the hand injuries right now. It sounds like in this case, further evaluation, we will know more very soon, and that's when we're gonna realize how long he will be out potentially, or if he's not gonna miss any time. If it's something that the Grizzlies could just possibly just put a splint or something on and let him play through it, or whatever the case may be. So we'll see what happens with Marcus Smart. Overall, he has been so great for this team right now, and he is one of the biggest reasons. And I think Desmond Bain was saying it when he was talking to Dennis Smith on the NBA TV broadcast after the game, and Marcus Smart came in and kind of video bombed him, and Marcus Smart is saying, talk about yourself, because Desmond Bain keeps talking about, Marcus Smart. He says, and Bain basically says it's no coincidence that we started back winning, since this guy's been in the lineup. And that's true, because when I first heard that, and when you first heard that, you probably said, well, the Grizzlies started back winning since Ja Morant's been back in the lineup. But Desmond Bain is right, because guess what? Ja Morant wasn't in the lineup in this game. Ja Morant wasn't in the lineup against the Suns. And Marcus Smart's hands are all over both of those wins. No pun intended. If you go back to the Suns game, it was Marcus Smart who made that steal against Bradley Beal. Grizzlies were up 3 points. Suns were right there in the hunt. Last minute of the game, I think at that point, last 25 seconds. And Smart reached right into the candy store and stole that Snicker right out of Bradley Beal's hands. And then it was this game. 23 points in 21 minutes. 4 made three-pointers, big three-pointers at that. Really pacing the Grizzlies offense. And then on top of that, he guarded Luka. He guarded Kyrie and did so effectively. Got a couple steals at the same time. Marcus Smart is showing, that game-changing ability now. If you watch the first few games of the season when Marcus played the first 11 games, you saw in flashes, right? So, oh, wow, that's why the Grizzlies got Marcus Smart. Now you're really seeing it, because it helped the Grizzlies beat the Lakers when he was guarding LeBron James out there. It helped the Grizzlies beat the Phoenix Suns when he guarded Kevin Durant, when he guarded Devin Booker, when he guarded Bradley Beal. He just took his turns at whichever one of them. It helped him again when he guarded Luka, he guarded Kyrie, and now he's been knocking down three-point shots as of late. And you get the playmaking with him. You get the ball handling. The calmness he brings to this team on the offensive side of the basketball as well. I can't say enough about him as a communicator. I mean, any game I'm sitting down there, at half court, I can pretty much close my eyes and I can say, yep, I know. Even if I don't hear him, I know Marcus Smart is talking in certain situations, because he's not one of those guys that's going to let too many defensive breakdowns happen. He's comfortable with the uncomfortable at this point of his career. And he's kind of challenged himself in a way to be that guy on this team, to be that guy who's going to challenge these players, no matter how uncomfortable it makes him or his teammates. They have the same goal in mind. That's what Marcus Smart keeps saying. They want to win, and he's gonna take that uncomfortable route to ensure that happens. So we'll see what happens going forward on the injury side of things with Marcus. But all signs so far are good, considering that the finger is not broken. So we'll see what happens after that. and where the Grizzlies will go for here, because they're playing some of the best basketball right now. And we got to break that down. Why are the Grizzlies all of a sudden playing their best basketball of the season? How have they won these last two games without Ja Morant? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that, we got to talk about our sponsor over at BetterHelp. Because listen, today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. And here's the thing about BetterHelp, that you people, everyone out there, you should know. BetterHelp is a great option for you if you want to find yourself, you know, you say, what are some of the things you want to do in this new year to really improve yourself? Well, look, New Year's, we get assessed for how to change ourselves, and instead of all, and all that stuff, instead of just expanding on what's right. Maybe you finally organize one part of your space and you want to take, or whatever the case may be. Look, give BetterHelp a try. BetterHelp is entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire, get matched with a licensed therapist, and switch therapists anytime for no additional charge. If you feel like it is not helping you, therapy helps you find your strengths, and you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make that change that really sticks for you. And that's what BetterHelp is here for. Celebrate the progress that you've made. All you have to do is visit betterhelp.com/locked on NBA right now today to get 10% off of your first month. That's BetterHelp, BetterHelp help.com/locked on NBA to take advantage of this opportunity. Coming up next on Locked On Grizzlies, we're going to talk about the keys to the Grizzlies win streak and how they can keep this thing moving. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, everyone. I'm Damichael Cole, beat writer for the Commercial Appeal right here in Memphis, Tennessee. Thank you guys for continuing to tune in with us on today. Just to recap what we talked about so far, talked about the Grizzlies' big win against the Dallas Mavericks. That's 3 consecutive road wins for the Grizzlies. Marcus Smart, the latest there, sounds like he's going to be okay. The finger is not broken. I think that's the big news here. The finger is not broken, so we'll see what happens going forward on that end. But we got to reflect here a little bit because, again, it's been a it's been a lot of doom this week, right? Particularly the Ja Morant news. And Taylor Jenkins kind of opened up after the game about it. Before the game, I'm sorry. Basically saying that the Ja Morant news was unexpected. And I think that's, something Grizzlies fans probably should hear, because there is some thought there. Oh, why did they say shoulder soreness and things like that if it was a season-ending injury? Well, it kind of surprised them too. It surprised Ja. It surprised all of them. This is not the result the Grizzlies expected when he got further evaluation in the MRI and whatnot. So there it is. But with all that being said, the Grizzlies keep winning. And not only are they winning, they're beating good teams. The Los Angeles Lakers, and the Phoenix Suns are currently in the play-in and whatnot, but they are two of the more talented teams in the Western Conference. Two teams that I would not be surprised if at least one of them kind of flips the script and turns it on later in the season. At least one of them. Like, they're both very capable. So the point is, the Grizzlies just won 3 consecutive games that they weren't the favorites in. And that's impressive. The first one was with Ja. Okay, they won a lot with Ja. They went 6-3 with Ja. These last two, though, man, like there's a bigger picture here to how this is happening. And I think I figured it out. Now, if you ask me, you would say, who are the game changers right now? Like, and when I say game changers for the Grizzlies, who are the needle movers outside of the obvious? Like, who gives them that extra where they go from, okay, we're good, we're decent, to we can beat anybody? You know what? You know Desmond Bain. You know Jaren Jackson Jr. You know Marcus Smart. We talked about Marcus Smart and him playing at this level. He is the ultimate needle mover. But who else on this roster is those guys? Well, right now, I'm going to give you a few names. I think Luke Kennard, fits that build. Vince Williams fits that build. I already said Marcus Smart. And another one potentially you could throw in there if he plays well is Xavier Tillman Sr. because of the defense, because of the screen setting, and because of the ability to be impactful on the offensive end. Like in this game, 14 points. So here's the thing: Luke Kennard, Vince, Xavier Tillman Sr., Marcus Smart. Heard those? Keep those names in your head: Luke Kennard, Vince Williams, Xavier Tillman Sr., Marcus Smart. You know what all those guys have in common? You can throw Vince Williams out of here because it just happened for him. But they've all dealt with injuries this season. Vince Williams just missed 3 games, but you got to go back to earlier in the season. Luke Kennard missed some time at the beginning of the season, came back, suffered the bone bruise in his knee, pretty much missed, 3 or 4 weeks, missed about a month's worth of game action. Xavier Tillman Sr., same thing, pretty much at the beginning of the season, suffered the injury, missed some time there. Marcus Smart missed 17 games for the Grizzlies after playing in the first 11 games of the season. So you know what I kind of figured out, especially with Marcus and Lucas Kennard. When the Grizzlies were struggling all that time without Ja Morant, because we go back to when Ja's out, they were 6-19 without Ja Morant. Like when that was the first thing that a lot of people thought when Ja Morant season in the injury was learned. Oh boy, here we go again. They were 6-19 without Ja. Let me tell you something. This team that we're watching right now was never 6-19 without Ja Morant. Marcus Smart and Luke Kennard didn't really get to play together that much. Desmond Bane didn't get to play with those guys. And even at the beginning of the season, when those players were available, Vince Williams was in his warm-up clapping on the bench. So he wasn't even, quote-unquote, discovered yet as this type of impactful player that he's become. Now you have all of those guys making this impact, and it completely moves the needle for this team by a lot. When you look at Vince Williams, he is a defensive game changer. He can rebound. That has been one of the Grizzlies' biggest weaknesses since Steven Adams went down. He is a defensive game changer. He can rebound the basketball. Luke Kennard is out here, even when he doesn't make 3-pointers, even when he doesn't take 3-pointers, the defenses, when they see Luke Kennard on the floor, trust me, they are watching and they are aware. In this game, 3 of 4 from 3-point range. In the game against the Suns, I think it was 3 of 3, as well. But all these teams are conscious on when Luke Kennard's on the floor, stay attached. Do not leave him open. And that creates opportunity for the other guys as well. Having those 2 players, then we know Marcus Smart. He's been moving the needle for 10 years now. And Xavier Tillman, when he can be this impactful defender and then go on the offensive end, and I mean, it doesn't even have to be 14 points. He gives you 8 points. You win that way. That's a win for the Grizzlies. So what I figured out is when they were 6-19, you had, Jake LaRavia, David Roddy, even Zaire Williams, who is playing well right now. But those were the guys that you were more so depending on. And you still don't have to depend on those guys now, even with Ja Morant out, because the depth has been built and the situations, the roles have been learned at this point. Luke Kennard is going to stretch the floor for you. You got another guy like when Ja Morant is out, you can just insert a guy like Vince Williams and you put him alongside of Marcus Smart and you throw Jaren Jackson Jr. in that lineup. You got 2 former defensive player of the years, a guy in Vince Williams who you trust to guard Luka Doncic, Kevin Durant, Tyrese Halliburton, Trae Young, Devin Booker, so forth. And then at center, you got Xavier Tillman. This is a former, a Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year. Has been a great defender at the NBA level. Bismack Biyombo has been a great defender at the NBA level. Has survived 12, 13 years in this league solely off of his great, not solely, but primarily off of his great defense, as a player. So you got all these great defenders, but the pieces are coming together because Vince Williams can shoot the basketball. Luke Kennard can shoot the basketball. Marcus Smart, along with his defense, can shoot the basketball. All three of those guys can play on both ends of the floor, and it gives the Grizzlies a whole nother element that they didn't have when they started 6-19 because Luke Kennard missed about a month or because Marcus Smart missed 3 weeks and whatever the case may be. So that's kind of the biggest difference, and that's a big part of this win streak. We'll see, how much it changes the team. I know this ain't a 6-19 team now. It might be a 13-12 type team, or it might even be a team better than that. We don't know. But at this point, we know it's not a 6-19 one. There is enough data there to figure that out. So we'll see kind of what happens going forward. We got a couple days before the next game. I think the Grizzlies aren't going to do much of anything today. They'll probably practice on Thursday. That's where we find out more about Marcus Smart and kind of anyone else, potentially that could be at practice who may miss practice or anything of the sort. And then Friday, first night of a back-to-back, 2 big games. You play the Clippers, who are probably the hottest team in the NBA right now, and then you take on the New York Knicks, who are probably playing, some of their best basketball of the season as well after acquiring OG Anunoby from the Toronto Raptors. So 2 teams that are trending up. And before we get to those games, we're going to have a lot to talk about this week with the Grizzlies. Speaking of a lot to talk about, make sure you go over to Locked On Sports today because that's where they have a lot to talk about. They have a lot to talk about and what's going on in the NBA. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube, and that is Locked On Sports Today. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Go to Locked On Sports Today on YouTube and subscribe to the first ever national sports 24/7 sports streaming channel. Make sure you go check that out on Locked On Sports Today on YouTube, and make sure you go subscribe as well. Make sure you go subscribe to it. Make sure you continue to subscribe to Locked On Grizzlies. Make sure you continue to rate it as well. Like, comment, rate, review, all of those good things. Make sure you listen any and everywhere. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, wherever you listen, wherever you watch your podcast. Remember, Locked On Grizzlies is there. But appreciate you guys for tuning in with me on today. Remember, Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcast. Until next time, I'm Damichael Cole. We'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.